Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners. Sprint Ride Option Podcast. Hello. It is a new episode of the Sprint Ride Option Podcast. I'm Andrew Pasquini, joined as always by the beautiful Jason Aponte. And Jason Aponte, how was your weekend? That's the first question I'm going to ask on this all-important mailbag episode. How are you doing today?
Just a lot of work, just moving. So, not really much to do but move. So
busy man, as I said, busiest man 49ers Twitter. I thought it was amazing. I went to San Jose this weekend for a wedding, hung out with Jordan Elliott. We went to the world famous Yard House, and we were there. World famous Yard House, and we were there long enough to where they just, instead of playing sports, they started playing random music videos. And one of the music videos they played was "I Hate Myself for Loving You" by Joan Jett, I believe. I forget the name off the top of my head.
Joan Jett.
Song that Carrie Underwood covers for I've Been Waiting All Day for Sunday Night. I thought that was very fitting for that. Jason, 49ers OTA started today, and I guess we'll touch on the big news real quick before we get into the mailbag questions. And when I say big news, I guess not really, because we kind of expected it. Mr. Deebo Samuel was not there, and that's really all I have on that. Any thoughts on that? Not much of a surprise, right?
None at all, and that is no indication as to how the negotiations are going one way or another. So it is what it is. We all figured he wasn't going to be there. Yeah,
no, it's something that the headline's a little scarier than what the actual reality is. The reality of it is this is how this works, and it won't get interesting until the mandatory stuff comes up, because I think that's when they could start fining him, if that comes that far. But I've seen people say as much as they are not, or he'll hold in, where he'll show up to camp and won't do anything fun like that. So yeah, it's really nothing. I guess the exciting part of the story is OTA starting. That's just another step closer. It's almost June, which then leads to July, which leads to August, which is preseason football. So we're getting closer and closer talking about actual football games, Jason. So that's pretty exciting. So let's dive into the mailbag. We got a few questions here. And if you guys have any questions throughout the show, ask them away, and then we'll answer them best we can. A lot of opinion-based things here today. So, Jason, first two questions kind of go at one and one with each other. One from Mike Finn, one from Uncle Salty. Mike Finn asked, who's the starting center week one, Mac or another player? And then Uncle Salty had, who will be the starting five on the offensive line going into the season? So they work one in another, right? So is the starting center Alex Mack, and who's the four around the center?
The funny thing about the Alex Mack thing is I have my own reservations as to whether he's going to be back, but it's already May 23rd and he hasn't made a decision. Now, if he leaves the 49ers twisting in the wind, so to speak, that feels kind of shitty, in my opinion. But I wouldn't blame him for retiring, going and enjoying his life. But it is May 23rd. When Joe Staley retired, he let the 49ers know before the draft that he was going to retire so they could go and kick the tires on Trent Williams. Alex Mack now is at a point where if he doesn't make a decision soon, the 49ers are going to have to do something off the cuff, basically. So hopefully they really know what's going on. As of right now, I have no idea. I would love for him to be there. So let's say he's not. If he's not, then it's Daniel Brunskill, in my opinion. And then one of the new draft picks, or the 49ers sign J.C. Treader or something like that. I would probably assume that it would be Brunskill if they don't bring in Treader right off the bat. But this Alex Mack thing, it's May 23rd. It's not good that he's not saying anything and not doing anything, because it's already getting close to OTAs. Make a decision, dude, and hurry up. No pressure, but hurry up.
I'm going to spin it the other way. I'm going to say the silence is a little startling, but my assumption is the Niners know what's going on. They almost have to, right? They're a team that likes to keep things under wraps best they can. I know sometimes things leak, sometimes they don't. Alex Mack is 36. He's going to turn 37 during the regular season. My guess is this is a guy who has been in the league for damn near more than a decade, not even damn near a decade, more than a decade. he doesn't need to do OTAs. He doesn't need to do the fun camp stuff. So I think the Niners know the situation. I'll drink the Kool-Aid, say he's not retiring. He will come back. He just doesn't want to do the boring summer stuff. Kind of like how Brett Favre would do it, right? Where unfortunately, Alex Mack isn't going to announce his retirement and unretire, but he'll retire then unretire just in time to miss the camp stuff. So that's where I'll go, is I'll say he'll come back. We won't know until closer to maybe the preseason, because I mean we're talking about a center who knows what's going on in the Kyle Shanahan offense. He knows how it works, all that fun stuff. He's probably doing his own physical training on the side, not having to go to Santa Clara to do it. So I'll just keep drinking that Kool-Aid until he announces his retirement. So I'll be under that belief. And then so you have, let's say J.C. Treader is your center. What's the rest of your offensive line looking like?
It would be Treader, Banks, Trent, Brunskill, and I'm gonna believe that Mike McGlinchey is gonna be back week 1.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. If I'm gonna go Alex Mack as the starting center. To his left, you'll have Aaron Banks at left guard, Trent Williams at left tackle, obviously, and then Daniel Brunskill. Yes, not the sexiest of picks, but it's the logical one. He's been here. The Niners like him. It's obvious. And then you have Mike McGlinchey at the right tackle. I think that's the most sensible, obviously, barring the Alex Mack funkiness that could change. And I'm all in actually with you, Jason, on the J.C. Treader idea, which feels like could happen, right? Because he's still available. The Niners are kind of in a holding pattern until, I don't know where my camera went, but I'm back. The Niners are kind of in a holding pattern until they figure out the Jimmy Garoppolo situation, right? So we'll see what it actually is. There we go. I got my camera trying to talk through while figuring out my camera. So we'll see what happens with Garoppolo. That's coming up. We'll talk about that later. But the Niners aren't going to really do much until they can. Well, actually, they did do something today, and I totally forgot. They signed a tight end off the top. Tyler Croft, blocking tight end. So maybe, who knows? Maybe that opens up things for George Kittle. But the Niners aren't going to do much of too much until Garoppolo's off the books. Niner Sickness Podcast has a question in the chat. Just don't want to lose it. Who will be the starting safety next to Jimmy Ward, in your opinion, Jason? I'll start with you.
I think it's going to be Odom. And I just don't. I think that Tarvarius Moore is very much on the bubble, and there's no way that Talanoa Hufanga can start at that position. I'm sorry. There's strides that can be made mentally, but if you physically can't play the position, I don't care about your mental strides. You're going to have to be 5 steps ahead of receivers. You cannot make one misstep with his lack of speed. He can't be out there by himself. So I'm going to say Odom because of the price that they gave him and what he offers on special teams.
Yeah, I'm going to lean. I'm going to go Moore just to be different. I think Odom's a very good pick. Tarvarius Moore has shown flashes. The Niners know the Niners know what to expect out of him. I know he got hurt in camp last year. Nothing against Talanoa Hufanga. I really like him in the box. I like him as a sub linebacker hybrid type. He has the, I don't want to say explosiveness, but he has that passion. That's a generic term, right? The passion. Everybody has the passion to play. But he definitely has that motor that keeps going. Whether or not I like him in coverage, I really don't. I thought it was kind of wild during the season, kind of disrespected Jaquiski Tartt, that people wanted him to start over Jaquiski Tartt over some flashes. Talanoa Hufanga is very good in limited roles. You don't want him playing coverage too much. Odom's a solid pick. I'm just going to go Tarvarius Moore just to be a little different. And you know what we got out of him, right? George Odom, he can be solid. He's had minimal playing time in Indianapolis. So we'll see what it comes down to. I'll just go Tarvarius Moore because he's been here a while. But hey, we have camp to figure that out. The Niners have camp to figure it out. And ideally, who knows, maybe they surprise us and they bring back Jaquiski Tartt, and this podcast can stop yelling until our face turns blue to sign Jaquiski Tartt. But we'll see what happens there. It's looking more and more likely it's going to come down to one of the safeties on the roster. I'll go Moore, but I could definitely see it being George Odom. Thank you for the question, Niners Sickness Podcast. D Case, one of 2 questions we have from D Case today. Why do so many people predict that any quote-unquote difficult game on our schedule will be a loss? If we can't beat good teams, then what are we even doing here? I have seen people say we get swept by the Rams. how. In my opinion, and this is the way I see it, we don't know how any of these teams look. It's based off of what we think they are, right? We think the Rams are going to be good. We think the Seahawks aren't going to be good. We think the Niners will be fine. It's hard to make these schedule predictions when you don't know who the teams are yet. I'll be more comfortable predicting the Rams games the week of the Ram game, right? We know who they are. But for now, we look at these rosters, and Jason, I don't think it's too far-fetched to say the Rams are better than the 49ers right now. I don't think it's too far-fetched to say the Chiefs could be better than the Niners, all that fun, things like that. And I think that's why, for me personally, I give the losses on those bubble games because I just go by what I know. I know the Rams are better than the Niners. And yes, I understand that the 6-1 record, all that stuff. But on paper, right now, the Rams are better than the Niners. The Chargers may be better than the Niners. We don't know that, but that's my feel right now. So in May, it's easier to say the more difficult games are losses. Just because we don't really know what these teams look like. We'll know better closer to the regular season. Is that the same kind of vibe you got, Jason, or what do you think on that?
It's Trey Lance, and that's the only reason that anybody's saying anything about that. They have no idea what the quarterback's going to look like, so they're automatically just going to think the worst and assume the worst and just say, you know what, they have a quarterback who hasn't played at all, and how are they going to beat the Chiefs with that quarterback, and how are they going to beat this? So it's Trey Lance. That's it. That's a simple, easy answer. The Rams are not better than the 49ers, not even close.
Okay.
And they lost too many good players. I love Allen Robinson. I think he's a much better receiver than Odell Beckham is right now, currently in his time. And him and Cooper Kupp are going to be hell to actually cover, but they're not better this year. Actually, they got worse. Bobby Wagner doesn't move the needle in that way. You lose Von Miller. You don't have the same sort of you don't have that same continuity going into this year. They aren't better than the 49ers. The 49ers roster properly constructed with everybody, with all of these draft picks that are about to hit. And if you bring in a JC Treader or you have Alex Mack come back, that's the team that was better than them last year. And they're going to be better again this year, especially when the coverage is going to be so much better, which is the one thing that they actually improved on, in my opinion, in terms of that. So, yeah, it's all opinion. It's May. People are talking. But the only reason that anybody gives other teams the edge in those games is because of Trey Lance, and they have no idea what Trey Lance is at this point.
Yeah, and that's a good point that I didn't even think of. Yeah, the Trey Lance question is the big question. As much as you want to bank on Trey Lance is going to be everything we hope he is, you can't really do that, and we'll find out what he looks like come regular season, obviously, and a little bit of a preseason. I think that Vikings preseason game is going to be very telling. I just think with the week he's going to get in prep because there's going to be things that he's going to get to see. I'm sure the Niners will order defensive types, from the Vikings, have the Vikings do different things in those closed practices, all that stuff. I think it'll be interesting to see what he looks like in that week, in that game. Not to hype a preseason game up more than it actually is. But the Trey Lance question is also a very large role in this. We don't know what he is until we actually find out what he actually is. As simple as that sounds.
Yeah, and that game is going to be the most hyped one because that's a dress rehearsal for everybody.
Yes.
So you're going to see extended action. So that is the most hyped one, and that always will be. It's always a dress rehearsal. There's going to be joint practices that entire week leading up to the game as well too. So we're going to find out what they're throwing at him and how he looks in those practices. Can't wait to get out there and watch those. So that is going to be the most hyped game. But again, these are all just predictions because people are just saying them right now. And it's so easy right now to just say, yeah, the Chiefs are better. The Bucs are better. This team is better. This team is better. Just because Trey Lance is the quarterback and no other reason than that.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Paul Hope asks, can I ask which rookie you are both rooting to make the 53-man roster and why? Jason, I'll start with you.
I'm rooting for Donovan West, but I think he is. He's pretty much a lock at this point. Undrafted free agent. When you look at the contract, $10,000 up front, $100,000 guaranteed. That is not for some guy who is going to be around as a practice squad guy. I think Donovan West makes the 53, and he was undrafted. There is going to be someone on this team that was drafted that will not make this team, and he is a lock. I am excited to see Donovan West because he was projected highly on people's boards. He was mocked everywhere to the 49ers, and now the 49ers get him as an undrafted free agent, and they made sure to lock that in. So I think that he's a lock to make the 53. That's what OTAs and that's what camp is really for me. I am excited to see linemen actually strap it up and hit. Now, during rookie minicamp, you're not going to be able to see any of those things happen because there's not enough to run practices. So it's line that I'm really looking for. But there is going to be someone who was drafted that is not going to make this team, especially when you consider that Juwan Jennings 2 years ago was a 6th-round pick and basically redshirted the entire year. So will they be on the practice squad? Will they just not make the team? Who is going to make the team, though? I believe is Donovan West, and I think the contract gives it away.
I'm going to go Leon O'Neal, just because, Jason, you and I are very blessed and honored to have friends and people in our lives like Javi and Jordan. And they're both guys that have talked to Leon O'Neal and before this whole draft process started, got to know him, and they have nothing but the nicest things to say about him. He does fit a position at need at safety for the 49ers right now. He probably won't be a starter, but at the bare minimum, he can help on the special team sides of things. We obviously know how rough that was for the Niners last year. They reworked the special teams this offseason. Leon O'Neal, to me, is one of those names that really jumped out when the Niners brought him in as a guy that Niner fans were excited about. So I'll go Leon O'Neal just because of what we've heard from Jordan and Javi, the things they've said about him personally, which is something that I like to hear nice things about these guys. And as 49ers girl says, chip on his shoulder. He probably was expecting to be drafted, just like Donovan West, right? Donovan West was expected to be drafted. I think people had him going to Niners as high as the 5th round. Thank you, Long Island girl, joining the Spicy Squad. Jason and I appreciate it. So it's guys like that. So Donovan West is a great pick. I'm going to go Leon O'Neal just because of what we've heard of him and who he is. And we got very high recommendations from our friends on him. So why not, right? Why not Leon O'Neal?
And I'm actually just, I don't know what it is about the linemen that I'm so excited to see. Like, I want to see Spencer Burford. I want to see Donovan West. I want to see Jason Poe, just because of all the things that they can do with him. I mean, he can play fullback. He can start in fast motion on the line as well too. I mean, the guy might as well be running routes as well too at certain points. He's a guy who lettered in track and weightlifting, a freakish athlete. And I think Kyle Shanahan's just kind of twiddling his thumbs trying to figure out a way to use him. So it's really strange that anybody could say Danny Gray, anybody could say this guy. But I'm really interested to figure out the line, because the line going forward has many question marks, and we're going to find out for many years what this offensive line is going to be. And I think that it's going to be some of the players that were drafted last year, some of the players that are actually undrafted free agents and were drafted this year. So I'm super excited to watch the big boys when I get to camp.
Yeah, it feels like the line is almost, this is the start of, I don't want to say the turnover, because you hope Trent Williams is here for a bit longer. You hope Mike McGlinchey can stay healthy, but with how much they've put into this offensive line via the draft the past couple of years and undrafted free agency, I mean, it wouldn't be crazy to think that we could have an offensive line that features Aaron Banks and Donovan West in 2023, and maybe even at some point this season, if Alex Mack does retire and Donovan West impresses like people semi-expect him to be, because as we said, he was projected to be a 5th round, 6th round, somewhere in that area draft pick. Niners get him as a steal in undrafted free agency. So we'll see what he ultimately becomes. But as you said, that contract tells you he's likely on the 53-man roster. And it's exciting because this – and this is kind of off topic, right? It feels like this Niner team is in this weird, like, they're very competitive. They can easily win the NFC West while also being in a weird rebuild at the same time, because a lot of these players they have are young on rookie contracts, are exciting players. Obviously, Trey Lance, the offensive line we mentioned. You go to the defense, Travarius Ward, he's younger. I know he's a free agent. Drake Jackson being drafted. The Niners have a lot of young, exciting players, but also feel like they're this like developmental team at the same time. So it's a pretty exciting time to be a Niner fan.
Well, the 49ers are doing basically what they've usually done. They've got their people that are there, but they've got their backup plans in place for later on. And that's something that you kind of need to see come to fruition now, because Brunskill may not be here next year. Mack may not be here this year. McGlinchey may not be here the year after. So there's going to be basically 4 new starters with Trent Williams next year, possibly. So, I mean, that's really what it's about. And this team is not going to go anywhere without offensive line, especially when you're talking about the development of Trey Lance. That's why offensive line is more crucial than anything else. They can live with the safety stuff. They can cover guys up if they have to be out there because Jimmy Ward's so good at erasing things on the back end. Coverage is so much better. Pass rush is going to be better, and they're going to be fine in that way. And the scheme is going to, insulate Trey for as much as it can, since we've seen this system prop up Nick Mullins, CJ Beathard, even fool some people into believing that Jimmy Garoppolo is a top 12 quarterback. So that's how good this scheme can be, and that's how good Kyle can make things happen for Trey Lance. So it's more about the offensive line. The offensive line is where it starts and ends, in my opinion, with this team going forward, because everything now is shifted towards Trey Lance now. So it has to be for him, and it has to be towards his development.
Perfect. Well, now the question on the other side of which rookie we're exciting, DK's asked prediction for most surprising player to miss the 53-man roster.
Ross Dwelley. He's not making the roster. That's why Tyler Kroft's here. They want more from blocking. Ross Dwelley can't block. Ross Dwelley doesn't offer anything in the pass game. Tyler Kroft at least can block, and he's 6'6" and can catch passes in the red zone. So it can alleviate George Kittle. You can't leave Ross Dwelley to block. When we saw that happen, Jimmy Garoppolo got destroyed in 2020 in the Miami game. The man's not blocking. The man's not catching passes. So what do you do here? Everybody loves Ross the boss, whatever it is, but he's put on notice now. That Tyler Kroft, and there was 2 other tight ends that they brought in. They're not messing around, and this is Ross Dwelley's camp. If he doesn't put up, he's out, and I think he's the guy that does not make this 53-man roster.
I'm going to go with a little bit of a spicier take, and I don't think this is going to happen. But I wouldn't be surprised if Trey Sermon. I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's going to make the 53. But you look at what the Niners have at running back. They have Elijah Mitchell. They have Jeff Wilson. They drafted, I'm going to call him Lord Tyrion because I'm back on my Game of Thrones watch, my streak of watching that. And they still have guys like JaMychal Hasty. Trey Sermon kind of just he disappeared at the start of the season last year. There's a lot of high hopes for him going into the season. He was supposed to be running back 2 behind Raheem Mostert up until Jeff Wilson took over, or up until Jeff Wilson took that spot back from coming back from injury. And he was a healthy scratch week 1. He got a chance against the Packers, got hurt, unfortunately, and never got a chance to really show his worth, his value. And I'm just going to go off of the good old Shanahan doghouse and pretend like that's where he is right now. It's not like they drafted Ty Davis-Price, in the 6th, 7th round as a hope to make that roster. They drafted him in the 3rd round. He was their second most pressing player they decided to get. So I'm going to go a little spicier on that Trey Sermon. I don't think it's going to happen, but if I had to pick a surprising name, I could see it being Sermon.
I don't think it's Sermon. I think JaMychal Hasty's out of here. I don't think he offers too much. I think Trey Sermon is here for Trey Lance, and they can't give up that quickly on it because you basically just tell everybody you lit the pick on fire. You might as well have, you might as well have drafted Jalen Hurd again. So I don't think they do that. Maybe he's not going to be here for long, but you can't even trade Trey Sermon. Like, you can't even trade him. No one's going to be trading for him. I think he's there to fit with what Trey does. And then the other reason that gives me optimism is that Anthony Lynn's wrinkle in this run game now is going to be inside zone, which is going to be for Trey Sermon. So I think JaMychal Hasty's out. I think, dare I say, Jeff Wilson's on notice as well too.
Okay.
I don't know if that injury zapped his knees or anything like that. That was not the guy that we loved from the year before. So we're going to find out pretty quickly. But it's one of those 2 guys I feel like that's on notice in this running back room. They have to make Trey Sermon work because you can't look this fan base in the face again and say another 3rd round pick, another 3rd round running back, because they did it with Joe Williams. They're doing it with Sermon. They're doing it with Joe Williams was top of the 4th, but that was still pretty close. You're lighting 3rd round picks on fire and just saying, well, whatever, after a year. You can't keep doing that. Again, 2019, you could have had Deebo Samuel, Nick Bosa, Terry McLaurin. You end up with Deebo Samuel, Nick Bosa, and Jalen Hurd. And now in this 3rd round, you could have had somebody else. And Trey Sermon, you could have had Javonte Williams. So, again, you can't let that happen. You just can't. The JaMychal Hasty thing is, like, I don't know what he offers anymore at this point. But I think Trey Sermon is going to come with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. Will he play a lot? I don't know about that. But it would be really hard for me to see him get cut unless he just really, really, really has fallen on the favor to the point that Kyle's just like, I don't want him here anymore.
See, this is what I like about our podcast is you tell me why I'm wrong, make it sound smart, and I love it because now I feel bad for making that pick. But yeah, as I said, I don't think it's going to happen. Would I be Shocked with how things developed with him last year? No, but all the reasons you listed, it wouldn't make any sense. And sometimes, who knows? Maybe the Niners do things that don't make sense too often. So who knows? As I said, I don't think it's going to
That's
happen,
fair.
but it would be surprising, right? So
Yeah.
we had a question up here and I lost it. 49er Jeff asked, do you think we need a veteran backup quarterback? And they have one, Nate Sudfeld.
They
He
sure do.
exists. And you know, I think there's a reason the Niners drafted Brock Purdy. I think it's obvious at this point. In case we've missed it, Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to be on this roster.
Nope.
I'm really at that point where they could say whatever they want, and it's okay. That's their job.
Albert Breer today, basically, that's it. I don't need to hear anymore. Albert
Yeah,
Breer today said that they have kept open communication with Jimmy Garoppolo on a trade, and that the trade is either going to happen or he's not going to be here. That's it. It's
yes,
over. It's done. That's it. Now I know. I mean, I already knew, but now I know it's done. It's done.
exactly.
Now it's going through the media. It's done. It's over.
Yeah, and we the Niners have Nate Sudfeld, and it's obvious the Niners like him. They gave him a fully guaranteed, what was a $2 million contract, which not a ton of money, but fully guaranteed. That tells you something's there. The Niners now have a third quarterback in Purdy. That's why they drafted him with the last pick. Shanahan likes to have three quarterbacks, and Purdy is one that can we'll kind of see what he is. Ideally, he's not playing much because that means Trey Lance hit. But yeah, the Niners quarterback room as of right now is full. They're not going to add anybody. I mean, they might add a camp arm if that's not what Purdy ends up being. But Nate Sudfeld's that veteran backup quarterback the Niners that you're asking for.
And I know it's a joke, right? But Nate Sudfeld is actually pretty good. In the limited time that I got to see him in camp, he made some of the best throws. He made better throws some days than Jimmy did. He's a big guy. He's actually mobile. And he knows the offense in and out. So yeah, I think that they do have their veteran backup. That is Sudfeld.
Mm-hmm.
In this league, you don't have backups that are going to come in and win you games regardless. I mean, There's Andy Dalton out there, but Andy Dalton is not going to come in and win you games. And if you're playing your backup quarterback, usually no matter who it is, you're in trouble one way or another. So I think Nate Sudfeld is fine. And Brock Purdy's just going to lay on the practice squad as an emergency quarterback, maybe be lifted if like one of the guys is injured or something like that. But Brock Purdy's just here to be a practice squad quarterback, if anything at all. So who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, no, I don't think I really don't think at this point the Niners are going to add too many more people. But at the same time, they added Tyler Kroft today. I didn't see that coming, but is what it is. I don't think we're going to see too many additions at this point outside of them signing the rookies. I know that hasn't happened, but that's another domino we're waiting to fall with the Jimmy Garoppolo thing. Last question I have, unless we have a few things in the chat. This is from Joey. How many days of training camp is Jason or both of you going to? Jason, I know you have a rough idea of what you're doing, and I'm going to try my best to do about the same what you're doing. So what are your plans for training camp coming out here?
Every day. No questions asked. Every day, and the joint practices in Minnesota. I'm not playing any games. The same thing that I did last year. You're going to get unfiltered results about what's going on. No media bias, anything like that. If Trey's playing well, you're going to hear Trey's playing well. If he's not, I'm going to tell you he's not playing well. But it's camp. But I'll be there every single day, and I'll be covering the Minnesota practices as well.
Yeah, and with that, I'm going to try and get out there most I can because I want to hang out with Jason and I want to watch 49ers. I cannot stress how excited I am to watch football. Like, as simple as that sounds, just being able to, and maybe it's just the drag of the offseason. We're at that point where there's really not much going on until June, July. I'm excited to watch these games. I'm excited to talk about the things we see, and I'm excited to see what the Niners end up being. So I'm pretty excited to be able to go out there to camp because I've never gone to camp. I've never gone to any type of camp. Actually, that's a lie. When I worked at the radio station in Sacramento, I went to a day of Raiders camp for work. But other than that, I've never seen the Niners at camp. It's something I'm looking forward to doing this season, to go out there and kind of see what the team looks like live, because I haven't done anything live with a 49ers team since Peyton Manning and Marvin Harrison were on the Colts. That's the last time I went to a Niners game. So I'm pretty excited to be able to go to camp this year and hang out with this Jason guy that I like quite a bit. So there you go. So that's the camp plans. Pretty exciting. You're going to the Minnesota one. That should be very fun because this is the first time they're doing joint camps since
Yes.
COVID, right?
Well, no, they did joint practices last year with the
They did.
Chargers.
They did.
So
Oh my
yeah,
God. Yes, they did.
so that's where the Chargers were making fun of Jimmy on the sidelines after he threw an interception. And then yeah, this year it's going to be with Minnesota in Minnesota though, so it's not going to be in Costa Mesa. So like that's going to be a little bit more of a trip. So
Perfect. Well, that's all the questions I had, Jason. Were there any last second ones you saw in the chat, or are we calling this an early one today?
no, Niner by Nature said, did y'all hear the Chris Sims interview on the Niner Nation podcast? If so, what are your guys' thoughts? Yeah, and I implore everybody to go check that out. Big fan of Rob. That's my guy. Niners Nation. We're affiliated, like indirectly. But yeah, I mean, Chris Sims is talking about concerns that he has about Trey Lance and delivery, things like that. I mean, it never really seems like it's personal with Chris Sims. I take a lot of shots at him just because of him saying things about what was seen at camp and you weren't there. That's it more than anything. If he has concerns about things that he either hasn't seen from Trey Lance or is seeing from Trey Lance, that's just his opinion. So I don't really take that as like, oh my God, like he's going out of his way. I think that he said very much so that, after he was done with that, he talked about, yeah, and Trey's going to start, and they need to start Trey. So that's what he said at the end too. So if I can give you the cliff notes, he has issues with the delivery. He has issues with some of the completions that he saw. He said that things weren't necessarily always easy. I can push back on that a little bit, which kind of makes me a little bit nervous as to what he was really watching, because there were Jimmy gimmies that Trey hit. There was throws that were not easy that Jimmy would never hit, that I wonder if you're grading those highly or if you're grading those lowly. But in terms of it, it never really feels personal with Chris. I will say that. But I will say that don't say what you saw at camp. Don't say what you saw at the joint practices because you didn't go. That's where I'm going to push back. And I don't want to hear about what someone told you. That's hearsay. Again, we're watching the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial. Take a shot every time you hear hearsay. Hearsay is not the way that you evaluate quarterbacks. Don't give me what you heard from somebody that was there unless you heard it directly from someone who was reporting about things fairly. So for me, things that were concerns that are you talking about at camp, arm strength, which is a complete lie. I mean, arm strength. The one thing that everybody knows Trey Lance has, everybody's all of a sudden worried about his arm strength and arm fitness. It's ridiculous now at this point. And now people are worried about whether he can pick up the playbook. The guy's the smartest guy that they've ever tested, and psychologically, the 49ers. What on earth are you talking about? So now you're literally saying that the things that everybody knew for a fact are check marks in the box. Now all of a sudden, hey, he can't do that anymore. Wait, what? How did that happen? The guy only played 2 games. He's 22 years old, and you're already worried about his arm. His arm is fine. You don't know what you're talking about when it comes to that. But what Chris was talking about, and I listened to it detailed, and I listened to all his thoughts on Trey Lance. He was talking about mechanics. He was talking about wind-up, things like that. He dips the ball too low. He says he throws and he whips the ball back. So it never really felt personal when it came to that. Just I'm going to push back on the camp and joint practice and stuff, because if you weren't there, I don't want to hear it. And that's my last part on that.
Yeah, and in terms of the arm strength, I mean, he is easily the strongest armed quarterback the Niners have had since Kaepernick. And if you pass Kaepernick, I mean, I don't know if we're going to be able to list somebody off the top of our heads in terms of arm strength. So the arm strength, I know the throwing motion has had some people concerned. It's a little longer. That's something that's going to be on both Greasy and Shanahan to kind of clean up a little bit if they can. But yeah, man, I'm going to side with Jason. I haven't seen anything on Trey Lance outside of the 2 games we got to see last year and what we saw in the preseason. I'm not going to speculate on what camp. I'm not going to go hearsay on it. I'm excited to see what Trey Lance is, and I think a lot of the negativity is based off of this nervousness. Based off of this nervousness of he's not going to turn out to be the guy the Niners hope he is. And sure, I get that, but let's withhold judgment until we actually see what he looks like as the certified starter of an NFL team, because it could look completely different than what we've seen in camp and what we've seen in preseason and all this stuff. He's played 2 games. He's played 3 games the last 2 years. So let's give him a little bit of that slack. But yeah, in terms of the camp stuff, I have nothing to say on it because I haven't seen it. You know who has? Jason Aponte, and he's going to continue to see it. So it's people like that who when they're there and seeing him at camp, listen to those guys, because people like Jason Aponte and people who are going to be there tweeting, they're not going to lie. They're going to tell you what they see.
And none of the media members ever had any of those concerns. You've
No,
never heard Mayoko say, "I don't
it's
know about his arm." I don't. You never heard Lombardi say, "I don't know
it's
about his arm strength." It's ridiculous, guys. It's ridiculous. You listen to the people that were there. Don't just listen to me. Listen to everybody. Everybody has good insight. Everybody has access to certain things that I may not. But don't listen to somebody who wasn't there, please. I implore you.
it's been so funny to me this offseason, man, seeing all these, because the Niners beat writers, the ones who've talked about Trey Lance, like Mayoko, like Lombardi, guys like that, Matt Barrow as well. They've said nothing to dissuade the thought of Trey Lance is the guy. Trey Lance is the starter. They've pretty much said it without saying it, right? Because they don't 100% know, but they've pretty much said all signs are pointing to Trey Lance the guy. There's been really no doubt in Shanahan's mind. But when a random Cowboys beat writer or a random Eagles writer or a random person, oh, Lance isn't ready, we lose our mind over it. And it's like, man, just listen to the people that are there and trust the people that are there. Matt Mayoko, he's been doing this for a very long time. He knows what he's talking about. So I get it. We really like to react to what people say on Twitter, especially when it's negative about our teams. But there's a lot of people within the Niners circles that have said nothing but positive things about what Trey Lance can be and kind of the plan the Niners have for him. And it doesn't seem to get as much attention as the people who have nothing to do with the organization, nothing to do with the team, have been saying. I like the attention that we give those people. It's fun, but let's start giving it closer to home and giving the Mayokos of the world the attention when they say these things about Trey Lance, because those are the people that know what's going on with this organization.
And it's not biased. It's actually
No.
people that are there and know what's going
Mhm.
on. And that's the point more than anything. And again, if you have concerns, because no quarterback is perfect, and there's plenty of things that I need to see Trey work on, there's plenty of things that a guy of his experience needs to work on. Yeah, throw those things out there. Throw it out there. If you're worried about his mechanics, if you're worried about his windup, those are fair things. But when you start questioning the things that we know for a fact are true, like his arm strength, is his arm
Mhm.
fitness gonna be fine? I don't hear them yelling about Mac Jones being able to throw the football or Justin Fields being able to hold up. Doesn't make any sense. And especially when you look at the source, Eagles guy, not at camp, don't know you, nobody knows you, bro. And you're not speaking to anybody there because the entire coaching staff is turned over. So who are you speaking to? Oh, you're speaking to players. No, you're not. Or a Broncos guy or anybody like that. Again, don't listen to it, but we do react to it and they know exactly what they're doing. I think that was the point that I made today about what was happening and Ian Rappaport's report about Deebo Samuel. And now he believes the contract's going to get worked out. Well, it's pretty funny how it went from, wow, he doesn't want a deal to, yeah, I'm pretty sure they can get this thing settled. Do you see what happens when the media shakes the hornet's nest that is the 49ers fans? We are the worst when it comes to automatically trying to come back against those claims when we should have known off the bat. And we tried to preach patience with you guys and tell you there was no reason for you to be worried
Yeah.
because he scrubbed his Instagram or didn't follow the 49ers. But it's just funny how it went from, well, he doesn't want a deal 2 months ago to May 23rd. I'm pretty sure they can get this thing settled. See how funny the media is? The reason is once they got a taste of it with the Mac at 3 stuff and they saw the reactions they could get, this is how you draw clicks to yourself. You say something about the 49ers that involves Jimmy Garoppolo staying, Trey Lance isn't ready, Deebo doesn't want to sign, something like that. Shake up the hornet's nest, watch the clicks roll in, and I guess that's your lesson for today.
I mean, isn't that how Imagine Dragons song title name guy? What is it? Whatever it takes got known is that stuff just shakes the hornet's nest and gets the attention they want. Jason, fun episode mailbag. My last mailbag question personally for you: how cool is it that not only the Yankees still the best team in baseball, but the Red Sox 10 games out of first place already? It's May 23rd, and they're double digits out of first place in the AL East.
They're playing pretty well. They're scaring me now. They're actually coming back. Like I thought Trevor Story was done. He's having a crazy month. The Yankees have lost 2 in a row. They're currently losing right now to the Baltimore Orioles. Have a bunch of guys on COVID, the injuries list. It doesn't feel good. This feels like a kind of scary time where the team was going to taper off. They weren't going to just go 29-9 all year. It's not. You don't play 700 baseball all year unless you're the 1998 Yankees. But the Red Sox aren't done. The Red Sox are not done. And that's the scary part is that they're kind of just hanging around and they're winning games little by little. But because the Yankees built up this lead, much like the Arizona Cardinals, they have a little bit to play around with early on. Just hope that they don't, do the same thing the Cardinals usually do every single year.
Did you see that, by the way? That's the in-season Hard Knocks team.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch them blow it.
I cannot wait to watch the collapse in real time on HBO.
Yeah.
That's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's going to be it. Not sure the next time we'll be back. OTA is happening this week. Jason and I will let you know the second we find out we will be back. So beautiful. Jason Aponte, as always.
Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners.